there when I get up and stretch from sitting on my laptop all day, and just like in between hour-long or 2-3 hour long marathons, or 2 or 3 meeting marathons that are 3-4 hours in total. I was able to sneak in some setup and get everything ready, so it's not last minute prep. I was able to test audio on my own system and be like, okay, my streaming setup hasn't changed, nothing. So I'm excited. I'm excited to be streaming again. This feels like home.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed that on Discord my camera looks super shadowy, but on OBS everything looks like nice and crisp.
Oh yeah, I can
Which
tell
is,
the difference when I look over at my OBS capture of Discord. It looks better in OBS than it does when I just look at Discord straight.
does it?
It does. It's really bizarre. Anyways, guys, Syntax, we are back for season 3 of Check Your Six podcast. Yeah, woo! I'm excited. I got a celebratory beverage here.
What are we drinking on?
What are we drinking on?
Yeah.
I got Captain Morgan right now, and I love Kickoff. I love Kickoff. Like this last weekend with the NFL kicking off, it was officially fall in my household. Hearing some football in the background, then immediately switching to esports during halftime, and all of that stuff. It was phenomenal this weekend. I loved it. And so to be kicking off season 3 this week, I'm over the moon. Like I've been looking forward to this for probably weeks now, and I've been like edging things back in and getting back into this mindset of podcasting and gathering information and everything. So my 12.5 tabs that I have open right now that we're going to be going through, I want to dive into this. And this year more than ever, I think data is going to be our friend and our ally in all of this. And with the FACEIT Collegiate League, as controversial as that might be amongst teams and players and other league organizers, I think that they will be setting that standard, and the other leagues will have to catch up, much like how we had discussions about last year where this league did something really good, but then they fell down somewhere else, and this other league maybe did the thing that the other league did poorly, but they do it well, but that they fell down somewhere else. And with the 3 leagues that we had, CEA, CRSL, and CR6, they all complemented each other. They all had a niche within the Collegiate R6 space. And with Ubisoft and FACEIT behind the FACEIT Collegiate Championship, they're going to have a different quality bar just because of the source, where the source of the league is coming from. So this is going to be it's not going to be a make it or break it moment, but it's going to be that opportunity for CEA and CR6 to make an impact about who they are and what they have to offer that none of the other leagues have. And it's an uphill battle for CEA and CR6, but they may have the community on their side, which is the one thing that the FACEIT League has maybe a little bit of an obstacle getting into. But everyone's got their price, and that $50,000 cash prize could be something that just enamors your college debted student. So we'll see how that goes. But we've got quite the show for everyone. We are going to go through the 3 leagues, CR6, CEA, and the FACEIT Challenge League. We're going to go over their formats. We're going to call out some teams to watch this upcoming season between the ones who are qualified for the Invite League and CEA, which I think provides a great glimpse of talent. But then also we can talk through some of the teams that were surprises that came into the CR6 Premier League playoffs. And we'll talk about CRSL. Not that there's much to say, but we'll give a little send-off for them. And then there's, of course, FACEIT, and we are going to dive headfirst into CEA to save FACEIT for later. So what do you have to look forward to for this season? What are you thinking about right now?
What am I thinking about? I'm thinking about how FACEIT's Collegiate League is going to affect the other leagues. I know that a lot of the other leagues have put in a ton of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into developing their leagues, and I think in my personal opinion, so it's kind of bittersweet, right?
Yep.
You know, having an Ubisoft official like league, I much rather would have had them directly sponsor one of the actually you know, established leagues rather than
Yep.
start their own. Because what I think was a little bit dirty is the fact that they had sent out a questionnaire to all the leagues, all the collegiate leagues, right? And they said, okay, you know, what do you guys like about collegiate league, and what do you guys not like, and stuff like that. And they all answered, and they basically took all that information, all the good stuff, and then they made their own league, and they said,
Thanks,
later,
everybody.
guys. You know, yeah, thanks for
They
the
did.
info.
I mean,
And they just
the data that CRSL, CR6, and CEA provided from the player perspective, and they probably talked to the organizers of CEA, CRSL, and CR6 independently and got more information from them, because these are like student-led leagues other than CRSL, which had a production studio behind them. But to them, that was business. And to the other leagues, they're like, we're finally getting credibility. We're finally getting some notice. And what ended up happening is that that goodwill was taken advantage of, or at least that's the perception from myself and probably a few others as well, is that I don't know what the dealings were and everything, but I know a number of people who were organizers of these leagues, and they have nothing to do with FACEIT. They were not collaborated with or nothing. They were not compensated for the data, and the amount of data that they gave from their player bases, all of those things, all of that data probably could have been valued around several $1,000s worth of data, because then it gave infrastructure data on how the requirements that FACEIT was going to have to build a legitimate structure and a legitimate league. So these leagues, the CEA, CRSL, and CR6, they've been around for years, and they just gave up all their secret sauce. They gave up all their players for a hope of goodwill. And I'm like, this is business for Ubisoft and FACEIT, so I get it. But dude, talk about doing your community dirty.
Yeah, it's like being Walmart and moving into a small town full of mom and pop shops and just running everyone out of business. Like,
Yep.
it's exactly what happened. You know, like, you know, got these all these, you know, privately owned leagues, and then all of a sudden Super Walmart comes in and plants their anchor, and they're like, hey, we're here now. You know,
Yep.
I'm really afraid that this league is going to run the other leagues out of business, essentially,
Speaking
because, you
of,
know, they're
they basically did. CRSL had to close shop, and so we're gonna jump into this. CRSL closed shop after their summer championship ran through. Now, CRSL probably had the best data of all the leagues, and one of the most functional websites that was easy to look at, easy to broadcast on stream and everything, and be able to dive into it. They were missing a few critical update pieces on timeliness and making sure that it was consistently updated, and going back and retroactively putting in some of the data. Like, that was some of the problems that it had, but it was a unique formula. They got sponsored to bring one of their qualifier cups to DreamHack LA. Was it LA this last year? I don't remember, but it was the DreamHack in California. They
Anaheim.
had Anaheim. So they had in the Bring Your Own Computer Pit, they had a collegiate or college R6 league qualifier there. So teams who went there won NVIDIA sponsored gifts. NVIDIA sponsored CRSL. And Ubisoft kind of squandered that opportunity. Now, they're probably also already partnered with NVIDIA, so maybe it's not that big of a deal, but they had a third-party production house running a league that was at least valued enough by NVIDIA to say, okay, you're running a legitimate operation, and we don't mind our brand being associated with you outside. And it's not just gifts. They scored prizes for the winning teams, but it was sponsored by. They put their name on that product. That's a big deal. And to have a third party go that far with your game, again, just kind of speaks to how are you treating this community of college students. This isn't your Challenger League stuff. This isn't your Pro League. This is a whole different niche group who are going to be your Challenger League players. whether they drop out of school early or they graduate and they're like, I don't know what else to do, but I'm fucking good at Siege. So it's a feeder to your feeder system. And that opportunity was kind of squandered. So CRSL, which we remember that our last podcast back in June was with, what is it, Swindle? The Swinster on Twitter. He was the product owner of CRSL. And when they closed, he had to leave. He left his org and was searching for new opportunities last I saw. So like jobs were impacted by this, because as soon as Ubisoft came out with their announcement, it's just like, okay, we're done here. We did our thing. And I don't know if they handed off anything off to the other leagues as a source of goodwill and just being like, hey, good luck, y'all, whatever, we're out. But Ubisoft and FACEIT, like, I won't say deliberately, but it is kind of deliberate in their approach. But they drove a team out of town. They drove a league out of town for something that's supporting their game. And I don't know how much HQ Ubisoft had a role in that, or if FACEIT was already talking deals back when they signed the Pro League deal. But this is weird. This is a weird space to be in, and FACEIT is really going to have to prove themselves as an authoritative league that the players will want to compete in. They've got the prize pool, but is that enough? I don't know.
Absolutely. I really hope that these teams continue to play in the other leagues, and support their mom and pop shops, while also playing in the official league.
Yep. All right. So I mean, we'll talk more about how FACEIT's going to run things in a bit, but we can jump into. Well, actually, we'll jump into CEA, but we're going to go back in time a little bit. So we'll go back to the Fall Invite League, where we had the last four teams. The top four teams of that playoff were University of Akron, of course, Carnegie Mellon, RIT, and Pennsylvania State University. So those were the top four teams in that league. And it ended up becoming a Akron versus RIT finals. And of course, this was Akron's one. Oh, no, I think they won two of the leagues last year. So Akron won CEA, but then qualifying to come into the Invite League this year from the Open Division in the spring, Miami University, and these are all going to be familiar names too. We see them a lot in CR6, and we saw a few of them in CRSL. So qualifying for Invite League in this season, Miami University, CSULB, so California State University, Long Beach, Simon Fraser University, and Florida International University, so FIU. So those four teams, perfectly familiar with, very highly competitive teams. So the fact that they weren't in the Invite League, to me, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Now, their format is changing up. Last season, they had 4 divisions of 4 teams apiece. This time, they're going 12 teams total across 2 different divisions. And here, I'll actually bring this up. Switchy. Boom. Oh, nope. That's not what I wanted. Whoop. Screen upon screen upon screen. And those are my notes. I hope you like my notes, everybody. Come on. There we go. Tabs for days. All right. So this is the CEA Siege Fall 2020 invite. And actually, let me shoot you a link so you can follow along. Production live, folks. This is how it happens. All right. So, CEA Siege Fall 2020 Invite League. So, registration's already done and dusted. Everyone who's in is in. They have a fancy handbook ready to go. I'll include this link in the show notes in case anybody else wants to dive in. But what we've got is 12 teams with 4 teams that have moved up from the Open League. So 8 of the teams from last season still stuck around. 4 of those being the top 4 that I read. There are 2 divisions with 6 teams in each division. schools will be seeded into one of two divisions based on previous season's rankings. So this is the exciting bit. They're the only ones who have done seeding this season. CR6, I believe, has plans to move into that, but they're not doing it. Same with Collegiate FACEIT. Collegiate FACEIT is going to be broken into regions and divisions within the regions, which we'll cover later. But seeding is in their future, or at least it's an option for them depending on how this season goes. So we can think about format as we go forward. Round differentials are kept to break ties. Group stage matches follow a best of 2 format. Teams earn 3 points for 2 map wins, 2 points for a map win and a map draw, 1 point for a tied series, 2 map draws, or a map win and a map lost, 1 point. So they still have the weird scoring system, which I think of it as a little bit of a charming system, a little bit of that flavor for what that league is, but we'll have to see how that goes. I'm not entirely sold on it, just kind of like how ties in the Pro League kind of go either way depending on how you ask, but I think most people don't like ties. I'm curious how this point system will sit with people going forward, but this is how they've been doing it. I'm excited that they're keeping to that flavor. Tuesday and Thursdays each week for their matches, so you might be able to catch streams from these teams going on every Sunday, reported by the first Sunday of the play week. So they have late to record the results. I'm excited about that. Let these students have as much flexibility as possible. At the end of the group stage, top 4 in each division will move into double elimination playoffs. So we've got timelines for all this. So you'll notice week of September 16th. That's right. CEA kicks off Wednesday officially. So that's good. We'll get some games coming in this week. I'm really hoping that there's still effort from all the teams to really stream, as well as for CEA to be on top of their streaming as well. They did a good job last season. So we've got 5 weeks of group stage, then we'll move into playoffs in the later half of October. And then they'll keep it round based all the way until the grand finals, mid-November 18th. I like how early this is ending, because with college we have to consider dead week and finals week and holiday vacations, because the November 18th is going to end before Thanksgiving vacation. So the Thanksgiving holiday, and that's going to be kind of that might be just after midterms. So it's kind of wonderfully scheduled to consider the students. So, and one thing I might do next week is compare the schedules between the 3 different leagues and see how these schedules are actually going to play out to each other. Because what we saw last season, there was a number of teams who played in multiple leagues. Akron, for instance, played everywhere as far as I can recall. So they were busy. They were very busy. But we'll see if these schedules will allow that to happen. I also like that. This would be another sneaky thing for FACEIT to do, is make their scheduling requirements a little more strict, because then it forces teams to consider the schedule for that league and whether or not that 50 grand is really in their grasp. But I keep peppering in this little FACEIT stuff. I've been reading the rules all day, so I'm a little all over the place. So rules and eligibility, that's all kind of full-time student, 17 years old, you play account, yada yada yada. Prize pool, current minimum of the combined prize pool, $1,500. I don't think college students are necessarily playing CR6 or playing collegiate esports for the money, as it is the notoriety, and just have some fun and get better at the game. Because some of them have aspirations of going pro, going to Challenger League. Akron was participating in Challenger League last season. So money may not be everything right now, but it is going to be one of those considerations for those teams that don't want to be like Akron, playing everybody as much as possible. So things to think about. That's CEA. So they've got a decent schedule. I like it. It's 10 weeks straight of competition. It looks like it's one match a week, and that's pretty straightforward for students to manage, and it's going to give some really good competition. So with this also being a seeded league, we're going to see some better matches. But it's all going to be curated because these are invited teams. These are teams who have qualified because they're the pinnacle of teams who have participated in CEA. So this is good for the scene in the league. I'm really excited about that fact. Do you have anything for CEA? Do you remember much about how that was organized or anything from last season?
Yeah, I remember them doing the group stages and doing the invite stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we see a lot more. I don't know how many teams have registered. Have we seen an increase or a decrease in teams?
I think it's about the same. Their open division is, actually I can probably pull this up pretty quick. Let's see. Open League. So they have 16 regional divisions, each consisting of 16 teams. So they have a lot of teams possible. So
16 times how many?
16 times 16. 256 possible teams, which I'm pretty sure they filled that out last season.
I don't remember them having 250 teams last season. Unless I just don't remember that correctly. I thought it was in the hundreds. I didn't think it was in the 200s.
You're probably right. Here, let me go back because I have I still have some of their spreadsheets. So let's see. Well, that's the teams. Oh my goodness. And that's their rosters. Let's see. Spring. Is that what I want to look at? Maybe? No. Okay, so I'm going to be a little critical. I can't actually go back and look at the old data because all the old data is just in like spreadsheet form, and it's more like what you would feed into a spreadsheet to make it look good as opposed to digestible data. So I can't actually get a good read on this. That's unfortunate, but
okay.
there was definitely a lot of teams. Like here,
I personally want to chalk this up to an increase of teams because I don't remember ever hearing anywhere near 250 teams. That's a lot of teams.
So if I go, actually, we can do some quick math. Let's see. We're how many? 12 cells dedicated per team. And then we will go, yeah, okay. It started at row 2. So we'll subtract 1 from the bottom. So 1,720. So 1,729 minus 1 from the header column divided by 12. They had 144 teams.
Yeah, see, that's okay. That's what I thought.
But the thing is, they are supporting up to 256. So, I mean, they have it on their registration page and everything. We are accepting up to 256 teams in the upcoming season. And with CRSL not in the picture, granted, they were already a much smaller league because it was entirely invite through the qualifiers. So they weren't necessarily going to represent the best competition, however you want to slice that, but they were extremely exclusive. So there might have been a lot of teams trying to qualify, but a lot of them obviously didn't make it because each qualifier took the top 4 teams. And they ran, 8 qualifiers, I believe? So 32 teams out of however many applied, which could have been kind of upwards of 256, which is a number we did see at least closely achieved by CR6 last season, or the winter season of 2019. Fall season 2019. So they had a ton of teams. I believe they hit that somewhere in the 200s, which was nuts. So
yeah, it was like 201 teams, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
if I remember right.
So actually, here's something interesting. The open division on CEA, they have a more spaced out because they're assuming more teams are going to register. They have more spaced out, so their finals are on December 7th or December 2nd. So they'll have 2 weeks playing 1 week just before the Thanksgiving holiday, so around midterms, 1 week on Thanksgiving holiday, which will be complicated and cause some problems for some teams, hopefully no forfeits, but then they still wrap up December 2nd. So that's still really good timing for that fall season to wrap up. So CEA with their new divisions and keeping to their scoring, I think it makes more sense to have this 2 divisions with the 6 teams in each and playing each other, and then having some out of division matches. That's just a solid way of going about it. So let's go ahead and go on to CR6, which this is cool stuff right here. So I'll send you the links as well. So we got the 3 collegiate conferences. We've got West, Central, and East. The West is going to be broken up into Pacific and Mountain. The Central will be the Midwest and the Gulf Coast regions. And then the East will be Northeast, Great Lakes, and Southern. Now, this doesn't have a map of where the Canadian schools are, but I'm pretty sure they'll just line up vertically like the rest of the breakdowns are. So you can see how it lines up between the 2 different graphics, which is pretty sweet. I love that they're breaking it up this way, and they'll be doing more region-based. So it's all seeded, which this is also kind of interesting, which we'll just need to get into how their matches are set up, because I'm really curious about how they do this regionality, but then seeding as well. And because it's just going to very much, I think it's very going to clearly represent stronger regions. Like I was terrified of the Texas and the South, all the schools being all in that one division in CRSL last season. It was it was the group of death as far as I'm concerned. I will always be concerned about when you have Texas and Mississippi and Louisiana State and Alabama. They had a great team last year. I forget the acronym that they had, but it was a great team down there. Then you start going into Georgia and Florida. The highly competitive teams down there too. Terrified of that whole Gulf Coast and southern regions. Everyone else has got to watch out, because on the west side, California-based schools have a leg up, I think, over Washington and Oregon. Sorry, everybody. I'm right here in Seattle, but I can't cop for any of the teams out here. At Wazoo, you stand a chance. I think they're a developing talent. I think they're ready to kind of really push through. But yeah. Though I will say, Grand Canyon University, Arizona, they made it into CR6's playoffs, and they've been impressing me time and time again. So they're an outlier. I'll just go and say that they're an outlier. CR6 schedule: September 13th, which they've had some registration issues with their website provider, so they have some scheduling and deadline kerfuffles to sort through, but they've been all over. The messaging has been great on their Discord server. CR6 also going to hold a special place in my heart, because it was the first league I started covering, so I'm excited at the growth and the maturity that they're already displaying this season, with how well they've kept up on top of summer and making sure everyone knew that these deadlines were coming. They are making sure that FACEIT has to earn every single inch that they're trying to take, which love it. Love the competition.
They are the first collegiate league ever.
Right.
They were the first ones to start the collegiate leagues. So
that's right.
Yeah, you're right. They are bullying them into submission here. They are making them earn their spot. This is really a step up from what we saw last season. Last season, CR6 was kind of a disappointment, if I'm going to be totally honest. It looks like this season is going to be a lot better, and that really makes me happy, because that means it could mean either one of two things. Either one, they understand their mistakes and they realize that their production was crappy, and they're like, okay, we need to step it up 10 notches, and they did. or two, they were going through some staffing mishaps, and they were really low staffed. And this season, they actually have a bunch of people to help work on it, so that could also be a thing.
I just realized my OBS layout was kind of tricking me into thinking that I was actually broadcasting something good. In fact, I was just screen sharing the screen share of OBS, and that was lovely production value right there. But first mistake of the year, of the season, this is how it goes. And now I know exactly how all of these other esport leagues kicking off and trying things for the first time feel like. Nah, I got to practice OBS better. I got to get fancy with my setups and everything and make this an actual quality production.
Start setting up those scene transitions.
Oh, I mean, I got it. I got like official Rainbow Six Siege streamer kit stuff. Like you got Blitz's shield coming by and just flashing briefly. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. I'm just terrible at using it, or terrible at using OBS. That is apparently. So season calendar for CR6, Swiss bracket format. Everybody knows what that is. Division play, so it's going to be based off of your so conferences, 3 conferences with your 7 divisions. Your looks like they're going to be doing division Swiss, so you're going to be playing mountain teams are going to be playing mountain teams, Pacific teams will be playing Pacific teams, and then after that what we have is the playoff seeding. So after 5 weeks of playing in your league, so starting yesterday, if teams have already been okay to start playing and admitted into the league, they're permitted to start playing. And this is not going to be I don't believe that this was seeded. This is one thing I didn't get a chance to double check on, but they were going, since they are doing the division based, this gives them a chance to have this first 5 weeks to create this seeding. That was the big deal. Last season they had phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 was completely unseeded and random. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 were entirely random. Phase 3 being the playoffs, so that one actually had some seeding to it. But phase 1 and phase 2 were completely random matchmaking. That was something that we dinged them on, just being like, how can you guarantee competitive integrity if you are just randomly shuffling the deck and seeing who plays who? We had a team, I forget who exactly, they had a team that was on the verge of qualifying for playoffs, for Invite League playoffs, and they missed out because they had to play Akron a second time.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
It was super unfortunate and like completely unfair to that team. It's just the way that it shook down because of the rules that they agreed to, which kind of drives me a little nuts. But so we get 5 weeks Swiss format in your divisions, regional playoffs. After that, we'll move on to the top 4 teams per division. This is where I love this. The top 4 teams, or the top 8 teams in each division, will go into the Premier playoffs. The next 8 teams, so 9th through 16th, will go into the open playoffs, and then teams 17 through 32, I believe, are done. So yeah, so they get done and dusted after 5 weeks, which it's them's the breaks though. Like you're going into playoffs, you have to have some teams fall out. You can't just be like, here's your pity party participation trophy playoffs that you're not going to be competitive in. This is that time where they get to say, after 5 weeks, we're done managing you because your team as a whole isn't going to provide value for our league, and you need to go take some time and improve. You can learn a lot after 5 weeks, and watching the next several weeks of playoffs, you'll be able to watch that and hopefully grow. Hopefully you get your esports coordinator or your director, whoever's at your college, to really say, okay, this is how we're going to improve, and take some time, take some ownership on that. That's
the difference between a regular league and an invite league,
100%. 100%. And that is actually one of the notes about FACEIT that I really do like. I'm going to sprinkle this in here. They only allow one team per school to participate in their competitive league. So already sorry, Texas A&M, you're not going to be allowed 3 teams in the Premier League this year. You're not going to have 3 teams taking up the top 32 seeds. And so it's just like you might have that level of competition at your school, but they are trying to represent national and North American competition. And the more schools we get involved with that, instead of less schools with more teams, the more schools we get into this space, the faster collegiate esports as a whole is going to catch on. So that decision alone is really good for FACEIT and really good for collegiate esports and their league. We'll have to see how that really fits into the collegiate space where there are so many players. That's my biggest concern, which is why CRSL, CR6, CEA are allowed to operate their invite and their open league. FACEIT is treating it more, here's your competitive league, here's your recreational league. That's their actual verbiage. Instead of an open and invite or premier and open, it's here's your recreational for the non-varsity, non-competitive teams that are just for fun, or for the ones that are trying to get better. Like, you could go in there and play, but I honestly think you'd be better off taking your squad and organizing scrims than trying to participate in a recreational league. There might be some benefit in getting that experience playing competitively in a tournament format or in a season format if you're really uninitiated, or your roster is rather. But framing it as a recreational league takes some amount of that competitive oomph behind it. Like, I know you go to any college and you go into the intramural sports, there's like those teams that it's the right verbiage for college. Yeah, we're going to talk over each other.
It's like intramurals. Yeah.
It's the right verbiage. No, you don't need to apologize. I'm talking a mile a minute. I'm talking over you. I'm a terrible host. People get to get used to this. We get to banter now. We've been at this for a little bit. We get to banter. I get to call you out on your baby beard. And grooming yourself on stream is not going to make it grow faster.
I see what you do. It's more like me just touching it. I don't know if other beard owners do that, but I like to just touch my beard. I don't know if that's a thing, but
it's absolutely a thing. I've been called out several times in meetings during work Zoom calls and everything, Google meetings, just being like, Joe, you're quiet, but you're stroking your beard. Like, oh, what's he got to say? Like, okay. This is what you get to look forward to, folks. Syntax and I have been streaming for at least one full season. We've been talking and building up what you're going to experience. So if you have any feedback whatsoever, this is a great point to introduce this. Anchor.fm/checkyour6/feedback or /message. Sorry, it's been a while since I've broadcast that address. You can leave messages for the podcast for Syntax and I, and we'll be able to play it on the podcast and address your questions, concerns, comments, and feedback live. We would love to have you be a part of the podcast, and that can be critiquing me, critiquing Syntax, commenting on my beard, whatever you want to do. That's all good. If you're a team and a player or a coach or a captain or whoever, and you want to tell us about your latest matchup, you want to tell us about what matchup you have coming up, the changes to your roster, I would happily invite you to leave those messages or to reach out to me or Syntax on Twitter at syntaxgg or at Warlock Recall on Twitter, and leave us a message saying, hey, you would want to be on the podcast. We would love to have some more interviews going on, some conversations with teams and players and maybe league organizers again. So please reach out, talk to us. We would love to have you on the podcast. Anyways, now we're good. Nice little break right there. I'll edit that out, do a nice little fade, clip that, put it in, and then go back to the conversation instead of our groom bits, our beard grooming bits, and save that for Twitter highlights. Okay, so the playoffs for CR6, Premier and Open, they follow the exact same schedule, which is great. Playoffs, round of 64, start late October, October 22nd through the 24th. They are having a rapid turnaround on this. They are moving fast. So, if applicable, round of 128 will occur the 19th through the 21st. But if they don't have enough teams for that, they will be round of 64 starting on the 22nd. And they have the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, 3 days for each of the round of 60, round of 64, round of 32, and the round of 16. 3 days to turn that around. That's a little over a week to turn around 3 matches if you're playing. And then the round of 8 is 1 week, semis are another week, and then the finals are a week after that. They're wrapping up their fall division, or the fall league, November 21st. So I do believe that is going to be before Thanksgiving. Yes, because Thanksgiving will be the 26th. So they'll be finishing all operations for the Premier and Open before Thanksgiving. That gives them all of December and probably most of January to sort out any of the kinks, to figure out any adjustments that they want to make, to be messaging all the players, to make sure that the spring season, which this is my perception, maybe you can tell me a little bit more from your perspective as a former player and with who you're still talking to, that the spring season is the one that matters. The fall is everyone figuring out their teams, getting used to new rosters, getting in sync, practice. It's highly competitive and there is prizes along the way and you want to represent your school well, but the fall is definitely a lot of teams sorting out through the kinks and sorting out through the new changes that have come to each of the rosters. Spring is where everyone wants the championship because it's when you're in your final form for the year. Is that about right?
Yeah. I mean, there's no real reason for it, but the spring is the more competitive one out of the two. There is the summer league, which is even more of an intramural, just a recreational intramural league where people just have fun. But winter is where a lot of roster changes happen, and they play through the season. They kind of figure out positions, strategies, tactics, how each other's play styles are going to be, and then the spring season is when everything comes together and accumulates into this one big championship. Why that is and how that came to be, there's no answer for that. It just kind of happened. So,
Nope.
But yeah.
And I think they're following a lot of what we also see from like the professional league. So a lot of the like Overwatch League, the Call of Duty League, let's see who else. A lot of leagues were kind of ramping down in that early part of the year to get a couple months break and then kick off near the fall. So that was some of the cadence for some of the professional esports, and I think they were just trying to mimic that schedule as best as possible as well. So making sure that the spring was like the championship time as opposed to like League and Dota, who kind of dominate that September, August, October timeline. So this is, and honestly, you want to stay away from timing your matches with those two games because the whole world watches those. The whole world participates in those, and I imagine our collegiate scene is very much into those events as well. So maybe a great timing accident for collegiate esports. So I mean that's CR6, and so before we dive into FACEIT, I want to call out some of the teams that were in kind of the top spots for CR6. So looking at the Premier League and seeing who we had here, we had Akron, University of Louisiana, CU Boulder Black, Simon Fraser, Purdue University, Mississippi State University, a little bit of a dark horse during the spring. Grand Canyon University, I already talked about them a little bit. They were in the playoffs. New York Tech, they're like this close to being really good. They've been close. but they've always been just like a hair below some of our like really premier teams. Marquette University has been there as well. Northeastern University showed well. CSULB, they've been a long time competitor in CR6 and even a slight rival to, I believe, Texas A&M, from like season 1 or season
CU
2.
Boulder.
No, CSULB.
Yeah. From
Yep.
season 1, it's kind of that is the rivalry right now, as far as
Yep.
I'm aware of.
UDEM, they came out well. Longhorn Gaming, again, one of those Texas schools you can't overlook. Oregon State University, this was their first time in the league, and they just blew up and they made it to the Sweet 16. They lost to UDEM, but that's University of Montreal. And I mean, University of Montreal also just qualified, or they won the Summer League. So, I mean, Summer League being intramural, like you said, but still winning a title, winning a season, that means something to that squad. And especially moving into the fall, they know something. They know how to communicate, and any roster changes that they're going to have, it's going to be easy to sink someone into those any parts that might be moving, unless they lost 4 of their 5 or whatever. Which I was, well, I'll talk about that later. Mega spreadsheet did not happen, unfortunately, and it's for one of the main reasons that we're critical of these leagues. So no big deal there. But University of Central Florida, another highly competitive team, they fell to Illinois State Varsity, which a little bit of a surprise there, but UCF highly competitive. Let's see who we see. University of British Columbia. Who else was Ohio State, like Boston University? There's so many good teams, and this is in the round of 32 that we had repeat playoff attendees. Like, we're going to see a lot of these teams again.
What about the team that shall not be named?
They were in CRSL, and I believe they were a CRSL only team. So I don't have to deal with that damn acronym as of yet.
I don't even remember what it was. It was so complicated.
Jeez, man. Let's see. Do I still have my notes? I might still have my notes. Let me.
It was a mouthful.
It was a huge mouthful, man. Did I write it down? They were the CR6, CEA.
It was like a 5-letter acronym.
It really was. I would have to dig through some of my other notes if I still have them. I probably do, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it was like a University of Chicago school. Gosh, I wish I remembered it just so I could give them a hard time on Twitter. So that's CR6, and I mentioned a few of the same teams that we have in who qualified for CEA, but Akron, they participated, but they fell to Simon Fraser in the Final Four. So Akron last fall, they were a three-peat champion. Cams are black on screen. Don't tell me that. What? Thanks, Discord. You're awesome. I love you, OBS. There, turn it on, turn it off, turn it on again, and we showed up. What the hell? Thank you, production. We've got it all. Oh, that's what happens. I accidentally, when I minimize Discord, the camera feed goes away. Good to know.
Oh yeah, you gotta keep it. You gotta keep it up.
Gosh dang it! Relearning things all over again. But Akron, they were they won all 3 leagues: CR6, CRSL, and CEA in the winter or in the fall of 2019. So they were the ones to look at going into the spring. They did not win CR6. They won CEA, and then they did not win CRSL either. Or no, they did. They had the epic comeback against FIU that was the only team that they lost to up to that point in all three leagues, but they lost twice to FIU into the playoffs, and then they made the lower bracket run to the grand finals or to the finals to beat FIU, which was just nuts. Like, and I think it went to game 5 even. So it was just absolutely incredible. Like you get the run it back, I'm blanking on the term. The reverse sweep. You get the reverse sweep, but they lost handedly 2 times over in the playoffs, including 1 time previously in the regular season that they lost. They were Akron's only loss in the regular season. And then they lost twice to them in the playoffs because of how the formatting went. Like, are you kidding? Or maybe it was just once in the regular season, once in the playoffs. But still, they lost twice to FIU. And then in the 3rd time in the finals, they come back and win in game 5. Dude, that's all the drama you could want. So then that's CR6. Like, we've got so many teams to look forward to, but it's just going to be great. CR6 I'm really looking forward to because of its long-standing history, how it's organizing things, the schedule. They've got everything locked down. They are going to be a highly competitive league this season. I'm excited about that. I hope that their history in the league also holds down some of the teams that are only participating in one or the other. Let's go to, I'm going to try and fix this real quick because I really want to show this off, because this is the rules for FACEIT. I've got some notes also, but I want to be able to bring up the rules. So, FACEIT Collegiate Championship. We are going to have the preseason consisting of 4 weeks of round-robin group play with 1 match per week. That's easily obtainable for these teams, even if they're playing in multiple leagues. The top teams in each group will advance to a single elimination playoff bracket. The number of groups will be determined based on the total number of registered teams in each conference, so they can scale indefinitely. 256, whatever. 1 team per school in the competitive league. Recreational can have as many teams as they want. The season itself will consist of 6 weeks of Swiss matches, with 1 match being played per week. The top teams will advance to a single elimination bracket. The winner of each conference bracket, so this is what I want to show off real quick on stream. Let's make sure that we can get this to look right. Hold on to your butts. Here we go. Boom. Oh, yeah, it works perfectly. I'll give you the link too, which, note to self, give Syntax all of the links before we stream. So, stages. We're going to start here for right now. Divided 2 stages. Preseason, season. Makes sense. The conferences, north, south, east, west. Broken down by states. So, north, New York, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, including your Canadian cousins that CR6 wasn't able to indicate in the graphics. And, I mean, you look down to the state lines and everything, it very much follows that same organization as CR6, so that's exciting. So we're getting some parallels here. So I'm glad FACEIT was able to publish their rules and everything, and CR6 is saying, by the way, thank you for your playbook. We are going to run with this. Or maybe they had a little bit of an edge and they did it themselves early. But what we can do is come back up to some of their other rules in the leagues. 2 leagues, championship, recreational. Championship is geared towards more serious and competitive teams. There will be a $30,000 in prizing available for the top teams. They said $50,000 on Twitter. I wonder what the difference is between here. Maybe the $30,000 is what is divvied out. The other 20 somewhere between top 2 teams. I don't know. Recreational geared towards those who are just looking to have fun, or teams which did not make the Rainbow Six Collegiate Championship. How they didn't make the championship, I don't know, because it's all register. So maybe they didn't make it in time. Maybe that's what they mean. No cash prizing, but in-game and other product prizes available to the top teams. FACEIT, Ubisoft, would it have been so bad to have done that for the other two leagues as well? Or other three leagues? Could that have been how they dipped their toes into this scene in the first place? Maybe. Maybe that would have been better for the community. But they took it into consideration. So I'm going to be a little nitpicky and jabby with this because it's weird. Canada and United States only. Schools can select to have their teams participate in the collegiate championship and recreational. Only one team in the championship, which, like we talked about, more schools, better for the scene. Preseason, already went over that. Season will be 6 weeks. Seeding, the inaugural season will not be seeded. Future seasons may implement seeding to balance excessive skill differential between conferences. This is what I'm talking about. Texas in the South, California, and Canada. I think, honestly, that's the order of operations it goes. Oh, I think those are the top three. If I had to put it in order, I'd say South, Canada, West. California specifically, if we can go down that far.
If I may say something,
please do.
There's something that seems a little bit sketchy in this rulebook, right?
Oh, what's that?
Under the team captains 1.2.
Yeah.
1.2.4 removal. FACEIT tournament admins. So the tournament admins reserve the right to remove a team captain from their team. So they can fire a team captain from their team and replace them with another team member at its sole discretion. They may remove a team captain for negligence, misconduct, or any other malfeasance. That is the broadest term I've ever heard in a rule book, right?
Yeah.
So they get full discretion to just fire a team's captain for whatever they want, essentially.
Yeah, that's really weird. I'm glad you caught that because, like, malfeasance. Like, let's just be super anal retentive about this. Excuse me. Sorry. It's all the nerves and the talking. I'm not used to doing this. Wrongdoing, especially by a public official. Like, okay, I'm really curious about that. How has FACEIT gotten burned in the past by this? How many problems could a team captain really cause in a situation like this? Is it just because they're the ones who are, like Ubisoft, FACEIT, are going to be coordinating with the team captains most? I mean, not everyone's going to have a coach, I suppose. So then, yeah, it would be the captain. So if someone starts going off on Twitter and popping off and doing streams, kind of like maybe that Rogue 9 video that you linked me, which will be interesting to digest. If someone goes off like that, maybe that's why that rule exists, so that Ubisoft can say, we don't like what you're saying, and you will no longer be associated with our league.
Yeah,
it's to protect themselves in the most extreme of cases, but it could easily be abused just by that definition.
Also, okay, I don't know if this is a common thing, but look at 1.3.3, sponsorships.
Yeah.
Teams may not have a title sponsor that supersedes the name of the university. Participating teams may not accept sponsorships from the following. All this is common sense: alcohol, tobacco, firearms, gambling, porno, medical substance, political campaigns. Okay, but here's one: any esports or video game tournament, league, or event, and then also any entities, companies, or organizations that may, at Ubisoft's sole discretion, be considered detrimental to Ubisoft's business or reputation, including but not limited to. Okay, well, that's obviously, but at Ubisoft's sole discretion. So, like, if Ubisoft is, like, not in good standing with, say, like, for example, Thermaltake, right? And this team is like, Thermaltake's like, hey, we'll sponsor your team, and then it provides this team with all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, FACEIT's like, you know what? Nah, you guys can't be sponsored by them.
Yep.
And just, that is shitty.
And I mean, that school has all that esports department program will have worked very hard to get that Thermal Take sponsorship, and they're not going to want to let that go for one esport team, unless it's like the
Basically,
sole team that esports department is based around.
basically what that means is any team that wants a sponsorship has to run it by Ubisoft first.
Yeah. Yeah.
How garbage is that? That they just injected themselves
Into the business.
Into the business.
That's incredible. I'm so glad you caught that. That is absolutely wonderful. And I mean, the other part with that line is including but not limited to. They highlighted the most obvious of cases: cheaters, scammers, people who are selling illegal keys, botting, all of that stuff. Like, those are the obvious ones. But your example with Thermal Take is exactly right. Or think about some of those California schools that are very closely related to Activision Blizzard or Riot, where they're part, like, those game developers are part of their programs, basically. High level integration between the two, which is why a lot of people talk about UC Irvine, because they are so closely related to Riot and Activision Blizzard, because they have like the best program. Everyone is aiming to be UCI basically at this point. So if one of these schools takes it a step too far in creating curriculum, creating anything, for example, this is a great example actually. I believe it was University of Kentucky. They have a partnership with Gen G. If Gen G doesn't have a Rainbow Six team,
What's Gen G?
Gen G, the esports team, they're all over the place. They own one. I forget the. I think it's the Seoul Dynasty in Overwatch League. And I believe they definitely have a league team. I believe they had a Rainbow Six team at one point. It would have been one of the APAC teams. But so if a University of Kentucky in this case, they have a curriculum, like they're using Gen G as a advisor to creating curriculum on campus around esports. If Ubisoft did not like that, they could say, sorry, University of Kentucky, you can't partner with us because we don't have Gen G in our pro league circuit. The pro league, college league information trade back and forth being completely controlled by FACEIT could create some conflicts of interest between how these universities are diving into developing their programs, which probably like really unfair for the universities, because if people know anything about the esports and developing business around it, it's still very Wild West. All these teams, all these leagues, they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure out how they want to stand on their own 2 feet. You take a step back and go back to collegiate, it's even farther into the Wild West. You take the Wild West and then you go about 10,000 leagues under the sea and you might get to collegiate esports with how weird it is, I'll be honest, and where all these schools are at. So there's definitely some shenanigans here and some places that could be clarified. At least that's our take. Like, if you're more familiar with these rules, maybe you work FACEIT Collegiate, love to have your interpretation and have some information on this and why these things are there. And I could also understand that there's legalese involved. They're doing their best to protect themselves in a legal fashion, but for the folks on the other side, it just does not leave a good taste in our mouths.
Yeah, especially since like it's it's a company that's obviously knows that a lot of these college kids aren't going to argue this, right? Because they're going to college kids. Who's going to hire a freaking esports lawyer and take Ubisoft to court and be like, these rules are dumb, right? So now Ubisoft basically just has full control because nobody's going to argue it, right?
Right. Their schedule breakdown, let me switch over to this because this is also kind of interesting. They have registration all the way up to October 1st, so it's going to be a while before we see any of this action actually come in. So schedule: week 1 round robins October 10th, week participation for that, week 2, week 3, week 4. Week 4 ends on Halloween, end of October. There's a break week, which I think was interesting. Conference playoffs week. That break week actually reflects more of that professional league setting. It gives all the teams who have qualified for playoffs to dive into their opponents. Hopefully we get streams and VODs available for every single one of these matches so that this league can actually start preparing all of their teams appropriately for the matches to come. And that's just for the preseason. This is the preseason round robin that they get the conference playoffs and everything. Then we move into October 1st. Oh, that's interesting.
Well,
They
that's
don't.
when the registration ends, right?
That's October 1st through December 31st. So this is exactly what I was talking about, where the fall season is the preseason, the practice season, and then the real season is the spring. This is exactly what they're emulating. So really, you get the conference playoffs, but they're not branding any sort of winner from this, from November 21st. So it's going to wrap up. They do, but in the season, because and they're operating a whole different registration period from October 1st to December 31st for registering for this season. You don't actually have to play in the preseason to qualify for this season. If you play in the preseason, I bet that gives you better spots in your application when you're registering.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like football, right? A lot of teams don't play in the preseason, right? Or some teams don't.
Yeah, I guess some teams don't. I'm not a huge follower of preseason. But this is that branding that I was talking about. Like, the fall season is practice, the spring season is where it counts, where everyone wants to win. So they do round robins, get as much information out there to the different teams as much as possible, do some playoffs, make people feel good about winning in this place, because there will be a winner. But when we go into the season, it starts January. So it starts first thing in January. I think CRSL and CR6 actually waited until late January last season to get started, but they haven't determined when the championship will be. And this is going to be my first tinfoil hat of the season. They're going to put the R6 Collegiate Championship with an R6 major. That's what I think they'll do, given that it's run by the same group and they have a TBD date right here in the schedule. I would have to go to line up the schedule with what they've shown for the majors that they want to do, but I believe that does line up.
Those prizes looking pretty juicy, if I may say so myself.
Let's take a look.
There's a preseason first, second, third place prize, and there's a regular season 1 through 8th prize.
Yeah. Yep. Those look.
Look at that. The preseason's okay. The regular season, though, $10,000.
Yeah, first place $10,000. So you split it,
and they each get a gaming chair, a free gaming chair, chibis, operator lamp, hoodies, and gunner glasses. Which, I mean, is small stuff. The gaming chair, though, and $10,000. That's pretty fucking sweet.
I mean, that chair is like $300-$400, right? After shipping.
On what it is. Let's see what it is. A Razi. Let me look this up. A Razi R6 gaming chair here.
Oh shit! I just closed all of my tabs. That was a bad move, buddy.
That's not too bad. That's a pretty cool chair.
Let's see it. Let me pull it up.
Just copy and paste the name.
Yeah. Let's see. I guess they don't have it branded for Rainbow Six yet, which is probably fine, but just pull up an image. I mean, it looks like your DX Racer. It looks like your standard.
Yeah, that's about a $300 value.
Yeah. Yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. Can't complain about free stuff when you work your ass off for 10 weeks in total.
That's true.
And I mean, say you're Akron, for example, or FIU, who has a chance of winning preseason and that following season, rosters pending, of course, you could potentially walk away 36,000 credits, the pennants, the mouse pads, face masks, thanks Ubisoft, and then $10,000, which split among 5 players, 2K a piece. That's part of a quarter of tuition.
Enough for a new PC.
Yeah,
That's true.
what it is.
A second PC so you can start streaming more. So then none of these leagues have a reason not to have your matches streamed for people who want to follow.
With the new 3000 series graphics cards, ladies and gentlemen, 2 PCs are becoming obsolete.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely.
I hadn't dove into it that much, but I could totally see that. But look at this. Even 9th through 16th will walk away with $625. So a little over $100 for anyone who participates for 1, 2, 3, so 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 weeks of competition. 9 weeks, you get $125 for playing Siege. Could be worse. Then you get a lot of notoriety. Your school may be paying attention. Maybe they offer scholarships coming on. It's all good. Default time Saturdays at midnight or at noon. So that's default time. That seems a little odd. But again, they're rules. They get to do whatever they want. They've got
what's the timings? Where did you see that? Okay,
that
the
was
default time for matches is Saturday at noon. That's not bad. At least it's Saturday. At least they didn't say like Monday at noon. Like,
yeah, that's totally fair. Unless both teams agree to play at a different time and provide written confirmation to FACEIT tournament admins, of course. Substitutions, transfers between teams, lobbies, and rehosting. I'm pretty sure a lot of this is going to be pretty cut and dry. We've got the match settings. So team deathmatch bomb, 7 plant, 7 second plant, 7 second defuse, 45 seconds. Preparation is 45 seconds, 180. So 3 minutes. Time of day. HUD settings Pro League. So they're using all the same settings for Pro League. Great. Nice and easy.
Okay, here's a cool one. I'm glad that they did this at least. Players and teams are permitted to stream their own matches if they are not selected for broadcast, with the understanding that they do so at their own risk, obviously. So they're saying if your team is being broadcasted by FACEIT, you can't stream. But if you're not being broadcasted, then you're allowed to stream your own matches.
Yeah, that's
cool.
great.
At least they're not strong arming that market as well.
Right. Though they might ask, I wonder if they ask for like FACEIT Collegiate to be branded on your stream. It's not a bad move for anyone to do it, but I wonder if they were.
I would assume that it would say here in broadcast whether or not you had to brand it. So if it doesn't say anything about that, then
here's something for you. Because this happened in the Pro League. Spawn killing, defined by killing an opponent within the first 2 seconds of the action phase of the round, is strictly forbidden.
Within the first how many seconds?
2 seconds. So I don't know what map that's available on, but spawn peeking is not allowed, basically. Or you actually have to control your fire so that you're not possibly the first person to fire.
Well, it just says first 2 seconds. I don't know if that's actually 2 seconds is nothing at all. I mean,
it's nothing, but if it was really truly nothing in the gameplay, or if they were allowing what was happening in a normal match to happen, I don't think they would have to call that out. So like intentionally team killing is strictly forbidden. This is under good sportsmanship rules. So it's not even, but they're dictating how people can play. If they have an imbalance in a map, if they have a position that is just so obvious that if someone wants to take that risk to spawn peek and make that shot, maybe it's more of a fault on the developer side for having a spawn that can be abused like that, or a viewpoint that could be abused.
That's what that's meant for, is right. So sometimes in like different maps like Chalet, right, there's a spot you can hop up on the railing and like you can spawn kill someone literally as soon as they spawn. Like right as they spawn, you can kill them. But most regular spawn peaks take place well after 2 seconds.
Right.
The 2 seconds. This 2 second rule is meant to prevent the instant spawn peaks, the instant kills.
I would hate to have a round turn the flow of a match be determined by going to instant replay and checking the timing of the kill. Was it 2 seconds after or 2 point some seconds, and is that enough? Because I could see some team being able to go, look, that was within 2 seconds, or it was under 3 seconds but greater than 2 seconds. How is Ubisoft going to make that call? Because they don't have a stopwatch available in the game to measure tenths of seconds or hundred.
Well, as long as it was like right after 2 seconds, so it's 2 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So anything over 2 seconds is not 2 seconds anymore. It's 2 seconds and
And
2.5
change, right?
right? So
Right.
that's not 2 seconds. And say the round starts at 3 minutes, as long as you wait until 2:58, you can spawn peek.
I mean, I agree, but I could see some team being like, timeout, ref, TO, we need this round because he killed us within 2 seconds. I mean, it's just kind of the nature of the game. People are going to be experimenting, trying with stuff, and in that competitive scene, people are going to be. It's no different than like in baseball, checking the umpire on the first base line. Be like, did he swing? Did he not swing? Like, it's that kind of call, but I hope that there's consistent calling on that. If it's not 1:59 on the clock, or was it 2:59 or 3 minutes on the clock, then it counts as a solid kill. Like, I hope that that's the hard line ruling that they take, as opposed to one ref being like, it says 2:58, that's within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Kind of arbitrary. Like, I hope they have that spelled out in their TO manuals. Yeah, I mean, there's lots to digest from this, and the website that they have for CE, or not CEA, but FACEIT is a little underwhelming at the moment. They have some like viewing on their Collegiate Hub, which is something else that you can join and go into, but there's no information on it right now. Got members, which are individual players, not teams, so I can't see how many teams that they have. The leaderboards look like it's ranking players already, which is weird. So you could start getting into who these players are. Can you see what teams they're on? Iowa State. Oh, I could start going into getting some player data. Right now, the number 1 player is from Iowa State. Number 2 is from GCU, Grand Canyon University. Clemps. GCU. So it looks like GCU has been busy. So some of these players don't have teams associated, but they're on the CRC or the competitive hub. University of Georgia Red, they're already associated. UC San Diego. Okay, this is a little more exciting. It's got win streak, it's got points. Where they decide as points. Here, I'll toss this up on stream real quick. So we got teams and points, win percentages. Toss you a link. Oh yeah, I know we're running long. There's a lot to talk about. We got some good juicy stuff in here, but that's all right. And you can call that out in voice. I'm like, whatever. We're doing this live. Let's be friendly. We can do this. But we got win streaks. We got matches played. We get win percentages and points. Points being each player will start with 1,000 points based on the outcome of their match. Players will win or lose points based on the outcome of the criteria, or based on the following criteria. Placement matches required. Points per win, 3 plus medium bonus. Points per loss, -3 plus medium malice. I'm not sure what malice means. Win streak +3, bonus +3. Okay, so that's interesting.
Wait, so people have already earned points?
Yeah, people are already earning points, which I don't know how that's happening. And I can...
Like, it's not like the preseason games have started, right?
No, they haven't, because they don't start until October. So I think that this is just people registering and maybe it's not as locked down, or the teams who have registered already are allowed to already be showing up on here, because there are a lot of teams actually, or some collegiate teams already indicated on here. So we got, goodness, we got a lot on here. Yeah, I mean, they're already on here. I don't know what else to say. We're getting data. That's exciting. So this says season 2 ongoing, so I don't know what that's all about. Season 1, when was this? So this was Collegiate R6 fall 2020 through August 31st, 2020. That's really interesting. So we got IMAT on here. He was from Akron. Yeah. And they might be testing out the platform, seeing if they can get some early bugs discovered. Yeah. Interesting. The fact that we're going to get this level of data already, but then they have a stats section for players and teams. There's nothing there yet. So ongoing past. Okay. So the more, looks like they have some unofficial matches that have been happening. Team Klims versus Team Mind, or it looks like test data. Really, Siege Ryan? No, those are actual players. I don't know what's going on here, but it's good to see them actually using their hub. I hadn't seen any data last time I looked at this, when this was first up. So we've got a data portal. We've got individual player data, leaderboards. So this is already exciting. If I click on one of these matches, is there a VOD? That'd be exciting. Nope, doesn't look like it. No VODs linked on here, at least not yet, or maybe not this game. There's a data panel that looks like it's trying to be loaded on the right side. So my hope would be we actually get round scores and round information, being that they also own the Pro League. It should be viable for them to get the same amount of data for the collegiate matches, which means we are going to get some awesome stuff to talk about. Yeah, so that's where we're at. This kickoff meeting has gone very well. Very excited to see how this is going to go. CR6, CEA CEA starts on Wednesday. CRSL RIP CR6 is started today, I believe, officially. They might still be sorting out some of their registration issues with their web host, but they already were handling all that. So I believe so. If you're already approved, some of the first matches are already starting. So we get some matches to talk about starting next Monday, which, by the way, welcome to CR6 on Mondays. We're going to do this so that way we get the latest and greatest data from when everyone has started and wrapped up their week. So no more partial weeks, no more recapping last week and partial weeks being confusing about this. This will allow us to be able to talk about everything that happened in a previous week, which will be great for us. CEA Tuesday, Thursday, they have to wrap up by Sunday. CR6 also wraps up on Sunday, and then FACEIT will start on Saturdays, so it ends on Saturdays. So we can just make sure that we still have a full week to discuss when it comes around to Mondays. So we're going to be on top of it. We'll see how the data plays out across the leagues and see if I can get a monster spreadsheet going this year, because unfortunately, with all the turmoil in the off season and a lot of teams doing changes with how they're doing things, website changes for both CR6 and CEA, there wasn't a lot of data available to go off of, and that's where I'm at. So we'll just have to go off of power rankings from the last seasons, like we talked about a little bit, and see who stays the course, who changes, and who falls off the top. Do you have any teams that you're looking forward to seeing this year? Tamu excluded because they're homeboys.
You know what? I kind of want to see, this may be absolute heresy, but I kind of want to see either UTSA or Longhorns do well.
I mean,
Represent Texas a little bit more.
I mean, Texas was all over the CRSL playoffs last spring, so I could totally see that happening. It's just down to how much of the roster can they retain and how much practice have they put in.
Luckily, I've moved out of College Station, so now I can say that without the fear of being torched and pitchforked.
There you
So,
go. I'm looking forward to seeing Oregon State, and Mississippi State doing well. Wazoo, like I said, they have a lot of promise. Their director has a serious head on his shoulders and really great mentality for his players. And anyone who's still there from the previous seasons, they can do well. I think they just had a couple missing pieces that they were feeling really hard, and they dropped a couple matches, and interest out there was kind of lingering in that kind of gray zone about whether or not they were going to have a full roster. So with the work that the director is doing, shout out to Hops, I'm hoping that they have a bigger roster this year so that they can field a competitive team, because Wazoo is going to be one of those competitive teams very shortly. Yeah, so I mean, there's so many good teams, and I'm hoping that we can actually start diving into the personality of these teams and the traits that they show, and what maps are their best, what maps are their worst, how are they going to go into a matchup when they know that their opponents are great at a map, but they're going to have to go into their lesser preferred maps. Like, how much are they going to prepare for that? And let's start talking how these teams are going to prepare for each other. If streams are going to be more frequent, we're going to have more educated teams, which is only going to help the league, which is what I'm looking forward to. I want this competitive integrity to be as high as possible for the teams who are willing to put in the most work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Whew. That's a kickoff show, man. Now, I mean, over the summer, you started having some of your content highlighted by Ubisoft and Rainbow Six. So let's plug your channel. Let's plug your channels and your info so that you can get some more people out there, because you know what you're talking about. I'm still a pleb at Rainbow Six.
Well, if you guys are wanting to check out a YouTube channel that highlights different tips and tricks and attack methods and stuff like that, it's my channel. It's be just youtube.com/syntaxgg, syntax with 2 X's, so SYNTAXXGG. So it was pretty unfortunate, right? So Ubisoft actually wrote an article, and they had like different sections, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one was like, one was about game sense, and they're like, oh yeah, if you want to do game sense, check out Syntax's video, and he breaks it down into 5 simple steps and stuff like that. And then they like linked the wrong video.
Oh, did they ever fix it?
So I have no idea. I didn't go back and check, but yeah, it was still cool. I felt
totally.
kind of honored the fact that they took the time out of their day to watch my video, and then they actually mentioned, they thought it was that good to be able to mention it in an article. Typo aside, or video typo aside, it was still pretty cool. And they sent me a nice little email saying that they appreciate all the videos I've uploaded to their website, and they actually it was pretty cool. They gave me 5 free in-game black ice skins from Season 1 operators. So
nice.
Yeah, so
that's awesome. Cool. That is pretty good. So they got your contact information. I shared it earlier, but you can check out the audio podcast, which I will probably be working on publishing tonight, so that you'll get it bright and early tomorrow morning for your earballs, if you're a podcast type person, which I hope you are, because we're doing a podcast here. If you want to listen directly online, it's published through anchor.fm/checkyour6. That is the numeral 6. It'll be in the show notes. It's on your screen if you're watching the stream. So you can go to that website and listen to the podcast online there, or you'll find all of the different podcast aggregators who will be distributing my podcast from there. So it's available on Apple, on Google, on Spotify. So basically whatever your preferred platform is, it is available on all the major distributors. So I hope you download it, subscribe, give some feedback. If you're not listening to it but you want to watch it and you're catching us live or on a VOD, we're on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Periscope. So if you're watching on Twitter, you can do that. As soon as I get authorized and permitted, it'll be on my personal LinkedIn. It'll be on hopefully my Facebook sometime soon. But at Warlocker Call on Twitter, if you just want to follow along, I'll be posting when the podcasts go out and everything. Either way, if you want to contact me through Check Your Six or anchor.fm/checkyoursix/message or at Warlocker Call, pretty much on all social media. I am on my phone most all day long, so your message will be seen, it will be answered, and maybe even highlighted on the show going forward. So appreciate you all hanging out for this kickoff show. Looking forward to organizing and talking with more of the community members going on this season. I know this was a long one. We'll keep it under an hour most likely going forward, but this is the good stuff. This is how we get excited for the season and show our appreciation to the league operators, to the teams, the players, the esports directors, all the support staff behind all these teams. We want to show appreciation for the collegiate scene. So thank you, everyone. Looking forward to a very competitive season across all of your leagues. And with that, I'm good to go. You good?
I'm good.
Awesome, man. All right. Thanks, everyone. We will catch you next week. Later, taters.